up at this area here. And then going a little bit further down into the valve, this was actually when I cut this open, it distorted the tube, and so it looks kind of funny there. But that's what we have. And I think I mentioned before the transfer port is right here under this. And this particular valve body is a single port. Some are two port, some are single port. And so the alignment, there's a little tab right here that would have gone into the cutout part, and you have to align that tab when you insert the valve body back in. But basically, you've got the check valve here. Like I say, it pushes off as you pump air in and then closes because of the spring pressure and the pressure of the air here at the end of your stroke. This spring here operates against the check valve. There's a little washer. I don't know if you can see it here. Try and get in a little bit closer. There's a washer right here between the inlet spring and the exhaust spring, and so I suppose it could seat against. There's a little lip here that washer seats against, but as you're pumping in, I suppose it could push even against the exhaust valve spring. Coming up to the other end, you have this is the spring that goes on the exhaust valve, and the exhaust valve is right here. So it's pushing that valve back toward the hammer and keeping it closed until you pop it open with the hammer. This is a valve body here, and this is a piece of lead. Benjamin, the 312s used lead to seal the compression chamber here. And there's two of them, one there and one here at the other end, just on the back side of the transfer port. That forces the air through the valve up into the transfer port and out the barrel. And then we have the hammer, which is here. Here's the valve stem. You can probably see it just sitting there. And that's the same valve, goes all the way through to here, and goes through the valve. And the stem is here. The hammer hits the stem, pops this off of the seat. The air rushes out of the compression chamber through the transfer port up into the barrel and pushes the pellet out. This is the hammer. This is actually a replacement hammer that I got because I distorted the tube and I had a hard time getting the old hammer back in. But that's what that is. The trigger, of course, here, and the safety. And it's pretty straightforward. All you're doing, you back out a little bit here. When you cycle the bolt, what you're going to do is pull back on the hammer until it engages the trigger here. There's a little cutout on the trigger. So the trigger is actually holding the hammer back right here against this lip. Then when you fire it, the hammer goes forward, strikes the valve stem here, pops this off of the valve, all the air rushes out. The thing about these old Benjamins, you know, we look at them, but they're really, Crossman considers them to be unsafe, and they used to, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have a program where you could return one of these and they would give you $75 off of a new Benjamin pumper. And I'm not sure exactly why it is, but I suspect that safety here had something to do with it. Because, you know, most guns, the safety's on the trigger so that you can't pull the trigger when the safety's engaged. On these guns, you can pull the trigger and the hammer moves, but it strikes the safety lever instead of the valve spring here. And I suspect what happened, excuse me, I suspect what happened in a lot of cases is, I mean, there's a very simple way to fix this. You just pull back and recock the gun, and then you can take the safety off, and now you can shoot it. But I suspect what happened is that a lot of people, with the safety in this position, holding back the hammer, then worked on getting this to open up. And if that opens up, and then certainly the hammer will continue, and you'll shoot the gun, and you may not be prepared for it. I can't even get this to do it. There's too much pressure on it. But I suspect that's one part of the problem with these trigger designs. The other is that if you keep banging the hammer against the safety, at some point you're chipping off parts of this lip here, and the hammer can spin around in the cylinder, in the tube, and at some point part might be chipped out. And if it gets down here where the trigger engages it, it may just be a very small engagement, so a slight bump could make the trigger go off. So I think that's the problem with these triggers. But they switched that when they got into the Model 342s and made it the Tang safety, which is a better design. I guess the thing that struck me about this in looking at it is just how compact everything is, from the pump cup to the hammer. You would fire it off there. You can see there's not a lot of area in there for the compression, for the air. The springs are fairly heavily they're coiled up. Not much room for the hammer to move. It's impressive that so much takes place in a small area there, and that it works as well as it does. So that's a brief overview of how the mechanism of the Sheridan, or the Benjamin 312 works. The 342 has the same valving system, but a different trigger and safety. And then the 392 are altogether different design with a cartridge valve in here. So that's it for today. I hope this has been informative and that you've enjoyed a look at the internal workings of the Benjamin 312. And come back and check in often. We expect to have videos up on a regular basis, and hope you enjoy them.